he is bald. He has a beard. He's a white guy. He's been in the military. He got tactical vest, helmet, the whole thing, paint. Basically, he dressed in all black, but with a backpack on with medic gear, milk of magnesia to help with pepper spray and tear gas and first aid supplies. And he went down there, and a lot of people were like, "Are you here to like cause issues?" And a lot of people, especially people of color, were a little leery. And he said, "You know what? That's okay. Just accept it. If I call one of my black friends and I'm like, 'Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm white. I'm so sorry, the system sucks.' And she's like, yeah, it's okay." And I'm like, "Oh, please forgive me." And she's like, "Yeah, we have no problem. I have forgiven you." Okay, but there's other black people in the world. So that doesn't mean, okay, well, my black friend forgave me, so I'm good. I'm like practically one of you guys now. No, not how that works.
And I think we've experienced those people in the white community.
Oh,
and it sounds like a caricature, but honestly,
it's not.
It's
real.
not. And it is. And to those people who are seeing themselves represented in that kind of statement, understand that's okay. I think the biggest thing that I have learned, that I have heard, in the channel that just started, the YouTube video, not sponsored, but hey, is Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And I saw this when the Black Lives Matter movement first came into being, 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago,
401 years ago in 1619, which I know a lot of people focus on that date because that's the first documented slavery in the on land that would become the United States. But the system put into place that allowed that has existed for thousands of years. Just throwing that out there. Okay, moving on.
Of all the things I've learned, learn to be uncomfortable. Yeah. Learn to sit in that discomfort and learn and learn how to do better. And then when you make a mistake, learn to do better. And most importantly, when you fail, own it, apologize
and learn
for it,
to do better.
And learn to do better. But also, nobody owes you their forgiveness.
Nope.
If they want to cancel you 6 ways to Sunday because of the mistake you made, that is their right. And that may suck for you, and I get that. And nobody wants that. But own it. It was your mistake, and there are consequences. And I think the biggest thing,
even if there wasn't a mistake, because my friend that went down to the protest, he was not doing anything wrong and was still looked at like, what is your deal? And that's okay. He didn't make any mistakes. And that's okay, because the biggest thing is, hey, white people, it's not about us right now.
Right.
The goal is not to get forgiveness from your people of color friends. My black husband, babe, I'm sorry I'm white. Can you forgive me? That's not his job. And even if he does, it doesn't mean shit, because the system's still in place. It's our job to, like you said, sit in that uncomfortableness, sit in the mistake, learn from it, and be okay with saying, yep, I was wrong. And that's part of that white supremacist system, that foundation, is we were always by default taught that we were the default. So our actions are the correct ones. Anything that differs from that is incorrect. And that's where we have to unlearn. We have to learn from our mistakes and unlearn the behavior we've been taught. And it's a really tricky balance. And you know what? We're not going to get it right. We're not going to get it right, period. we're not going to get it right for a long time. And we have to be okay with that.
Right. And I think that the best we can do is know that what is needed from us now is not some sort of white guilt. It's not some sort of white tears. It's understanding our role as best we can to dismantle white supremacy, understanding that, yeah, we could lose privileges, because they're making space to level the playing field. That may mean that, when we worked at school, we're not going to find jobs as easily, because there are more people being seriously considered. And that sucks. But then we need to learn how to make the system actually balance. And we need to understand that our loss of privilege is not a penalty. No. It is a leveling. It is a civil rights issue, and we need to clear that field as best we can.
To put it really simply, say you and I are playing a game of chess. I have all the designated pieces. I don't have an extra queen. I don't have a hidden rook. I don't have extra pawns, nothing. I have exactly what I'm supposed to have per the rules of the game. But you have 3 less pawns, only 1 rook, and your bishop can only move half of what it normally can instead of a full diagonal whatever. Cool. You're playing as the black person in America. I'm playing as a white person. Mm-hmm. Now, we're playing this game, and I'm like, yeah, cool. Hey, this is cool. Like, you're making some good moves. Awesome. Rock on. I'm making some good moves, too. You and I may be playing both of our best games, but the game is rigged. So I need to look at that and go, wait a minute. Hold on. Hey, guys, she doesn't have all of her proper pieces. Like, and some of her pieces can't move like mine can. Hold on. This game isn't fair. This isn't right. Mm-hmm. So either I need to get rid of a few pawns, get rid of my rook, and my bishop can only move 5 spaces, or even better, let's let you play by the same rules that I do. Mm-hmm. Except it's not a game, it's people's lives.
Right. And I think
so
one of the
you could sit there and say, this isn't fair, this isn't fair. Don't you see this? This isn't fair. And I'm like, well, look, like, I didn't set up the board. I'm not the one who designed this. I'm just playing by the rules, man. I respect you as a player, but I need to be the one to stand up and say, hey, who put this board together? Hey, guys, this isn't right. Can I bring some of the attention to this, please?
Yeah.
Because if you just sit there and going, I'm losing, this isn't fair, people are going to say, well, learn to play better.
Yeah.
And like that one woman, and I apologize for not knowing her name off the top of my head, but she's the woman who said, you broke the contract. You broke the contract.
Oh, yeah. I remember her.
She was hair to side, I think kind of a purpley colored shirt, kind of like a little darker than mine, I think.
The video was played at the end of the police topic by Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. So if you go to the end of that, that's where that is. And if I had the original video, and if I can find it, I will try and link it somewhere.
I think if you just Google "you broke the contract," it should get you there. And you really need to listen to the whole speech. And and without hearing the whole thing, the last part doesn't have quite as much emphasis.
What I'll try and do, and I can't make a promise, so I apologize to viewers on this and listeners if we weren't able to do this, but I will try and track down the video and see if we can put it splice it in, because really the whole thing is something that you need to listen to, and you need to be, if it makes you uncomfortable, it makes you defensive, sit with that, because we need to get there.
So when they say, why do you burn down the community? Why do you burn down your own neighborhood? It's not ours. We don't own anything. We don't own anything. Trevor Noah said it so beautifully last night. There's a social contract that we all have, that if you steal or if I steal, then the person who is the authority comes in and they fix the situation. But the person who fixes the situation is killing us. So the social contract is broken. And if the social contract is broken, why the fuck do I give a shit about burning the fucking Football Hall of Fame, about burning a fucking Target? You broke the contract when you killed us in the streets and didn't give a fuck. You broke the contract when for 400 years we played your game and built your wealth. You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own by our bootstraps in Tulsa and you dropped bombs on us. When we built it in Rosewood and you came in and you slaughtered us. You broke the contract, so fuck your Target. Fuck your Hall of Fame. As far as I'm concerned, they could burn this bitch to the ground. And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
Okay, so you either just heard it or will probably Google it on your own, viewers, but she ends with saying, you're lucky black people just want equality and not revenge.
Right.
And that's all that is being asked, is equality. Right. And the people who have the system rigged for them need to be willing to fight for that.
And we have to be willing to accept that loss of privilege will happen. We succeed, that will happen. And that is a good thing, even if personally it's an upsetting thing. And I think we can get there. I think I have unrealistic hope. I think right now there is a dueling cynicism and nihilism inside of me competing with this optimism that I think that most of us can learn. I think enough of us can learn and can do and can push back. I have seen change in people that I never expected to say anything, to show up at protests. I have never expected these people to get to this point. And despite having, for years I've been posting all of these Black Lives Matters issues and talking about it and trying to raise awareness. And there were people that I was just like, it's never going to happen. And then it did. And that gives me hope that we will see in 20 years, we will look back and this will be like, when the emancipation, and this will be like, when segregation was made illegal on the books. And both of those are incomplete and flawed, but I do think we can have another push and have another moment where we finally address.
It shouldn't be the next step for Black people. It should be the next step for humanity.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I can't say I understand why people are realizing it now, because I have to tell you, I remember, I'm old enough to remember the Rodney King riots. And
barely, but yeah.
Right. And that video. And, when I have Tamir Rice's name is the main one for me. When those cops drove up and in a matter of seconds emptied bullets into a child, I have no idea how anybody was able to see that, was able to, so many names piling up.
If someone did that to my kid, I wouldn't chant on the streets, I'd burn the world down.
Right. And that's, I think, part of our privilege too. I think that's why you see so many white rioters instead of a lot of Black rioters, because white people do not know the cost of those actions.
No.
We have been playing.
We've never had to suffer those consequences. Individually, yes. And I hate the term white privilege, because it assumes that oh, I grew up so privileged. I went to a wonderful school and had cars given to me. You know what? Maybe my parents beat me and I was passed around the foster system and I had a shithole childhood.
Mhm.
That doesn't sound very privileged. But at the end of the day, I don't have a skin color that makes it even more difficult.
Right.
I don't have melanin. And it's melanin, not melatonin. Oh my God, people. Melanin, not melatonin.
And I think the reason I think that's why a lot of white people see white privilege, the phrase, and they're like, well, yeah, no, I've I've had nothing but harsh travel.
It's
but
POC disprivilege. Going back to the
I-
chess analogy, I
don't-
don't have extra
I don't
pieces
know.
on the board.
Because that's not it either. And I think that white privilege is the best term, because
Yeah.
we have had time and time again governmental systems set up for us. I have had no trouble when it has come to getting services. I have not been run through the ringer. I have had no problem, you know, when I stand up, people listening. And this is systemic. There are things there. Redlining, the practice officially has ended, but we need to recognize that even when we get these things officially ended, that we still need to make sure that once it is done, once we have, you know, reduced funding for you know, public security, which I'm not going to say police because I think that is a type of public security, but when we've reduced funding for law enforcement, for example, where we are funding what is needed to, you know, process rape kits and investigate murders and, you know, crimes, and actually follow up on actual law enforcement issues, and are not putting the rest of that funding into the public services that are needed, which is what is meant by the whole defund the police. It's bring law enforcement down to the role that is actually law enforcement, and bring, you know, other social services,
Work, and, yeah.
right, and healthcare and education, fill that gap. Stop making it be all police everything all the time, and that's where we pour it. I think that once we do that step, and that is my hope, that we will do this step, that we will get these laws in place, that we will abolish police as the current setup and switch to a law enforcement method that is from the ground up and based in equity and justice, then I think we need to remember that the next step, that there is a next step, is to follow through. It is to make sure to catch the gaps where people are like, yeah, buts. Well, it's not exactly. Because every time we make these headways, every time we as a society do that, there is a backlash afterwards, an attempt to get as much of that power that was lost back. And we have to not just look at this win, but take a deep breath, take care of ourselves, and look at the next win. And we have to be there. And as white women, we got to do that. That is we need to own our place of privilege. We need to own what we can do, and we need to direct that to be supportive. We need to shut up when it is our time to shut up, and give space for others, and talk and hold each other accountable over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that I would stop there, but I do have one more important question that one of our staff on a related topic, because civil rights and healthcare are not actually separate issues.
They're not.
What are your concerns in the coming months, in the fall, about COVID-19 in relation to both the protests and the reopening efforts? What are you concerned about?
Until we have a vaccine, so we can establish herd immunity, this virus will always be here. maybe not demanding our attention every second of every day, but here. And there will be an uptick in cases because of these protests. And reopening the state, people will automatically think, oh, cool, so things are like chill now. I've been wearing a mask for like 3 months. It's summer. I want to feel the sun on my face. Complacency. That's what's going to happen. Is there are now bigger issues, and in true American fashion, we get bored easy. So COVID was so 2 months ago. Like, I'm over it, whatever. And people, they get desensitized to the fear and then distracted by a new thing. And that results in complacency, not wearing a mask. I see a lot of people wearing their mask like this. No, really?
Please, my beautiful watchers, do not. No, put it. I love all of you. Put it up here.
Pinch, pull under, like make sure it's on, and then make these as tight as you can, a little elastic thing. That creates your seal. So we're going to see an uptick, which should drive home how important these protests are. I have a friend who, he's HIV positive. He is a gay man who is HIV positive, and he is out protesting. He is literally, he is a white man. He is literally risking his life because if he gets COVID, the chances of it killing him are astronomical. And he sees how important it is. As someone who has been oppressed, he sees the importance of fighting that oppression and dismantling a system that allows the oppression. And even he acknowledges that his oppression in his life has been nothing compared to a lot of people. Because at the end of the day, you can look at him and not know if he's gay or not. He can take off his gayness and just be some guy, some white guy. Yeah. You can't take off your blackness and be the default.
And that's definitely something that I can relate to. You know, I said in an interview I did with a ASL sign languager at the protesters that for as much as this piece of fabric definitely makes me stand out to certain people, and I can't say that's not part of the intent, to show who I am, to demonstrate my faith, I can take this off.
Yeah.
And then I can say, oh well, that was a mistake and I was misguided, and but now let me show up at the KKK or Nazi or CPAC.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not worry. Not even a little bit, and be
we
open.
Have the safety
welcome
of
with open
default.
arms. Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that safety, and the only resolution is to remove it as a default.
Right. And I will say on that thing, one of the things that I have found is a thing I take as a personal responsibility is so many of these white supremacists use white women as their justification. You know, I am out here, standing up against white oppression. Oh, such a phrase.
Right? Like 2020 even real.
Right? And they're out there and they're saying this, because I want to protect white women. I mean, that was what Dylan Roof was talking about when he went into a black church where they welcomed him with open arms, was because he was protecting white women and all of this. And, so to any white supremacists somehow making it this far into a video that I'm sure upset your tiny feelings, fuck you. I don't need you to defend me ever.
Yeah.
And I will always state that, and I will always be better than needing your pathetic attempts to protect me. I am not yours. I never will be. None of this that you do in our name is ever okay. And I will always do more action to push back against it. So don't use me as an excuse for your pathetic, tiny, worthless feelings. I don't ever need it.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and lean on white women. And white women, holy, stop letting them.
That's a whole nother podcast.
It is, and that is what ultimately in all of this, as people who are very interested in healthcare, people who are very interested in civil rights, women's rights, Black Lives Matter, all of that we have talked about. We will, I think you and I, continue to push back on this and take advantage and push this down, because I don't give a fuck who says they're doing it in my name. They never are. And I will always do what I can, as much as I can, to stand against oppression. Black Lives Matter. It's not a controversial statement.
No. Why?
And police brutality is
Don't
wrong.
kill people that shouldn't be killed, which is pretty much everybody. Oh, well, hold on. Don't be hasty now.
Right.
What?
Right.
Like, how is that even? Maybe just don't kill people.
No, police have been entrusted with a badge and a responsibility, and if they cannot handle it, and they have shown that time and time again, that they, as a group, they cannot handle this responsibility, whether they are the supervisors who are, giving warnings and writing it off and, letting it go, whether it's, the union leaders, whether it's, obviously the people doing it, which I think I said at the beginning, but, it's getting a little warm in here, or it's the complacent members of the police force that are not walking off that line 100% of the time, are not in the police, in their police department saying this is wrong, calling it out. Every single mayor or sheriff that continues to justify this in any way, you guys should have listened to yourselves. You said these are a few bad apples.
In the produce world, the phrase is not, a few bad apples don't ruin the bunch. No, a few bad apples do. And if the rot spreads so fast, and if it's bad enough, they can't just wash out the container and use it again. They have to burn it because the mold spores are infectious. So a few bad apples does ruin the crop. You have to throw out the entire crop. So don't give me that bad apple shit.
We are at. That is where we are at, because
the rot has spread.
They have sat there and said time and time again, it is a few bad apples, and maybe, not really, I've looked at history, it's not really, but hey, you know what? For the sake of argument, let's say maybe you're kind of right, that there was just a few bad apples. Well, guess what? Those apples were not gotten rid of. That rot has spread. It has infected the entire barrel. And that is why we say abolish the police. We need to set up a new law enforcement. We need to defund this and fund our communities.
And people say, well, how are we supposed to just defund an entire community service? Well, we've been defunding schools for years. So maybe we should not fund quite so much the bad thing and refund the thing we need more of.
Right.
But I do have to get to my patient because I do work in the
Absolutely.
healthcare world. So on that note,
thank you so
wear
much
your
for your
mask,
time. Yes.
wash your hands, be safe, support each other. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to learn from the mistakes. Don't be afraid to be a good ally.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Have a great day. Give love to your patients for me. And I look forward to talking with you again. I'll say it again. Black Lives Matter, 100%, all the
Black
time.
Lives Matter, man.
Bye for now.
All right. Bye.